The stars looked different out here, Jake Morrison thought as he stared through the wide window of his ship. He had been commander of the research vessel Harmony's Edge for 3 years now, but the deep space beyond Earth's solar system still amazed him. Tonight they were near a system called Kepler 442, looking for new planets and checking for signs of life. Jake walked down the narrow hallway of his ship. The metal walls hummed with the sound of engines and computers working. His crew of 25 people had been out here for 6 months, and they were all getting tired. But this was important work. Earth needed to know what was out there in the dark space between stars. He found Lisa Grant in the communications room, sitting in front of a wall of screens and speakers. Lisa was his best officer for picking up radio signals from space. She had short brown hair and was always focused on her work. Right now she looked confused. "Commander Morrison," Lisa said without looking away from her screens, "I'm getting something strange. This isn't like anything we've seen before." Jake moved closer to look at the displays. Numbers and wave patterns moved across the screens in ways that made no sense to him. What kind of strange? It's not natural space noise. It's definitely a signal from someone. But it's not human, and it's not like the old radio waves we sometimes find from dead civilizations. Lisa touched some buttons, and the speakers filled with a sound that was part music, part crying, and part something else entirely. Listen to this. The sound made Jake feel sad and scared at the same time. Even though he couldn't understand the language, he could hear the fear and desperation in it. Someone out there was asking for help. How far away is it coming from? Jake asked. The signal is weak, but I think it's from that water planet in this system. The one our sensors showed. Has oceans. Lisa played the signal again. Commander, I think someone is dying out there. Jake felt his heart beat faster. In all of Earth's space exploration, they had never found another living civilization. Scientists had always wondered if humans were alone in the universe. Now they might have their answer, and it wasn't good news. Get Dr. Cross and Engineer Hayes up here right now, Jake ordered. 20 minutes later, Dr. Amanda Cross hurried into the communications room. She was a tall woman with red hair who studied alien life, even though until today there had been no alien life to study. Behind her came Ryan Hayes, a young man who was very good with computers and communication systems. Is it real? Amanda asked as soon as she heard the signal. Her eyes were wide with excitement and worry. It's real, Lisa confirmed, and it's been going for at least 12 hours. The signal repeats every few minutes, but each time it gets a little weaker. Ryan plugged his portable computer into Lisa's equipment and started working. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. The signal is definitely artificial. Someone built machines to send this. And look at this. He pointed to patterns on his screen. The signal contains mathematical concepts that show intelligence. Whoever sent this understands physics and chemistry. Amanda listened to the alien sounds again, closing her eyes to concentrate. Play it slower, she said. When Lisa adjusted the speed, Amanda nodded. There are patterns here. Repeated sounds. That might be words. And the emotional tone is universal. This is a cry for help. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Ryan, I want you and Dr. Cross to work together. Figure out what they're saying. Lisa, keep monitoring the signal and see if you can determine exactly where it's coming from. I'm calling Earth Command. The next few hours were busy and stressful. Jake sent a coded message to Earth explaining what they had found. Meanwhile, Amanda and Ryan worked without stopping to decode the alien language. They used Earth's most powerful computers to analyze the sounds and find patterns. The breakthrough came when Ryan realized the aliens were using mathematical concepts to define their words. They're teaching us their language as they speak. He explained excitedly. Look, they use the same sound pattern each time they refer to numbers or basic concepts like water or fire. Amanda was writing translations on a large screen. The word they use most often translates to something like help or save us, and this word here means dying or ending. Slowly, piece by piece, they began to understand the message. The aliens called themselves something that meant current singers or wave riders. Their world was covered in oceans, and they lived underwater in great cities. They were peaceful people who had never known war, but now they were being attacked by something they called the Silent Ones, or the Metal Mines. These attackers came from space in huge ships and were destroying the ocean cities one by one. The current singers had tried to talk to the attackers, but the Metal Mines only wanted to take everything and kill everyone. The most heartbreaking part was at the end of each message. The current singers said they had sent their cry for help to every star system they knew about. They had tried to contact dozens of other civilizations in the galaxy, but no one had answered. No one would help them. "They're about to be wiped out," Amanda said quietly, tears in her eyes. "An entire species of intelligent, peaceful beings. And they're going to die because no one will help them." Jake received his answer from Earth Command 8 hours later. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came through the speakers with a serious tone that Jake had never heard before. "Commander Morrison, you and your crew have made the most important discovery in human history. We have confirmed your findings with our best scientists and military experts. The signal you found is genuine, and the situation is exactly what you described." Jake waited, knowing that what came next would determine whether humanity's first contact with aliens would be a moment of joy or regret. "Earth Command has made a decision," Admiral Sullivan continued. "We cannot and will not stand by while an innocent civilization is destroyed. For the first time in human history, we are mobilizing for interstellar war." The communication room fell silent. Jake looked at his crew members, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their faces that he felt in his heart. "Your ship will serve as our advance scout and diplomatic vessel," the Admiral continued. "General Kane is preparing the largest military force Earth has ever assembled. We're going to show these metal mines what happens when they threaten innocent life." After the communication ended, Jake gathered his crew in the main meeting room. These were good people. Scientists, engineers, and explorers who had signed up to study stars and planets, not to fight wars. But when he looked at their faces, he saw something that made him proud to be human. "Everyone knows what we found out." "There," Jake said. "An entire species is about to die, and we're the only ones who can help them. This isn't what we trained for, but it's what we're going to do," Lisa spoke first. "Those sounds in their message, you can hear how scared they are. How can we just let them die?" "We can't," Amanda added firmly. "If we don't help them, who will?" Ryan nodded. "The signal is getting weaker every hour. We might be their last hope." Jake looked around the room at his crew, his friends, and felt a surge of pride. Humans had always been fighters. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. They had learned to protect each other, and now they would protect strangers who needed help. "Then we're going to war," Jake said simply. "Send a message to the current singers. Tell them help is coming. Tell them Earth doesn't abandon its friends." As his crew rushed to prepare for what might be humanity's greatest battle, Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, an innocent species was dying, but they wouldn't die alone. Earth's children were coming, and they were bringing everything they had. Earth had never moved so fast. Within 3 days of receiving Jake Morrison's report about the dying aliens, every major city on the planet was buzzing with activity. Factories that made cars started making spaceship parts. Soldiers who had been training for Earth wars suddenly found themselves preparing to fight in space. General Peter Kane stood in the biggest military command center Earth had ever built. The room was the size of a football field, filled with screens showing maps of space, lists of ships, and pictures of weapons. Officers hurried back and forth, carrying orders and reports. The general was a big man with gray hair who had fought in 3 wars on Earth, but this was different from anything he had ever seen. "How many ships do we have ready?" General Kane asked Colonel Danny Rodriguez, who was in charge of preparing the ground soldiers. 43 combat ships, sir. Plus 20 support vessels for supplies and medical care. It's not huge, but it's everything we can get space ready in 2 weeks. Colonel Rodriguez was a tough man who had led soldiers in mountain warfare. Now he was trying to figure out how to fight in zero gravity. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked into the command center carrying a cup of coffee and looking like she hadn't slept in days. She was responsible for all of Earth's space military forces. "The president just approved our battle plan. We're calling it Operation Helping Hand." "Helping Hand?" General Kane raised an eyebrow. "The aliens asked for help. We're giving them a hand. Sometimes the simple names work best." Admiral Sullivan pointed to a large screen showing the space route to the alien world. "Jake Morrison's ship will guide us there. The trip will take 8 days at maximum speed." Across the planet, ordinary people were doing extraordinary things. In Texas, Sergeant Alex Johnson was training with his Marine unit in a facility that simulated fighting in space. Alex was 28 years old and had joined the military because he wanted to protect people. He never thought he would be protecting aliens on another world. "Listen up, Marines," Alex shouted to his squad. "Fighting in space isn't like fighting on Earth. No air, no gravity, and the enemy has technology we've never seen before. But we've got something they don't have." "What's that, Sergeant?" called out Private Lopez, a young woman from California. "We're humans. We're the species that survived ice ages, volcanoes, and predators trying to eat us every day for millions of years. We know how to adapt, and we know how to win." Alex looked at his Marines, seeing their nervous but determined faces. These metal minds think they can just destroy innocent people. They're about to learn why you don't mess with Earth. In Nevada, Navy pilot Grace Miller was testing a new type of fighter ship designed specifically for this mission. Grace was known throughout the Navy as the pilot who could make impossible moves and survive battles that killed other pilots. Her fighter was painted with a picture of Earth and the words "From Earth with Love." "How's she handling, Miller?" called her ground crew chief as Grace landed after a test flight. "Like a dream with attitude," Grace replied, climbing out of the cockpit. "These new engines are incredible. We can outrun anything the enemy has, and the new weapons should punch right through their armor." The fighter program was being led by Commander Helen Parker, who had been chosen to organize all of Earth's space fighters. Helen had been a pilot herself before becoming a commander, and she understood what her pilots would face. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," Helen told her pilots during a briefing. "We're fighting for people we've never met, on a world we've never seen. But they're innocent, and they're dying, and that's all we need to know." Meanwhile, Earth's scientists were working around the clock to understand both the aliens they were trying to save and the enemies they would fight. Dr. Amanda Cross had returned to Earth and was leading a team of researchers, studying everything they could learn about both species. "The current singers are amazing," Amanda explained to a room full of military officers. "They're completely peaceful. Their biology makes it almost impossible for them to be violent. They've survived by being smart, creative, and working together. Their cities underwater are works of art that also serve as advanced technology." She changed the display to show what they knew about the metal mines. "The enemies are different. They used to be organic beings like us, but they uploaded their minds into machine bodies. The process seems to have removed their ability to feel emotions or creativity. They see organic life as wasteful and inefficient." Engineer Tony Clark was working with a team to develop new weapons specifically designed to fight machines. Tony was a genius with electronics who had been building computers since he was a child. Now he was building devices to destroy them. Traditional weapons might not work against their machine bodies, Tony explained to General Kane. But machines have weaknesses that living things don't have. They depend on electrical systems, computer networks, and logical programming. We're developing electromagnetic pulse weapons that can shut down their systems. Working alongside Tony was Chief Engineer Bobby Lewis, who was modifying Earth spaceships to carry the new weapons. Bobby had spent his career maintaining the engines and systems that kept spaceships running. Now he was turning peaceful research vessels into weapons of war. We're adding armor plating, defensive shields, and weapon systems to every ship we have, Bobby reported. It's not pretty, but it'll work. The enemy won't expect research ships to fight back. Dr. Maria Santos was leading another team that focused on understanding the enemy's technology. Maria was an expert in computer systems and artificial intelligence. She believed that the metal mind's greatest strength might also be their greatest weakness. They're all connected through a shared computer network, Maria explained. It makes them very efficient and coordinated. But if we can disrupt that network, we might be able to confuse them or even turn them against each other. The most important moment came when President Lavra Adams addressed the entire world. Every television, radio, and internet connection on Earth carried her speech. She stood behind a podium with the flags of every nation on Earth behind her. My fellow humans, President Adams began. Today we face a choice that will define us as a species. We have discovered that we are not alone in the universe. We have learned that there are other intelligent beings among the stars. And we have learned that some of those beings need our help. She paused, looking directly into the cameras. The current singers are a peaceful people who have never hurt anyone. They create beautiful art, advance science, and live in harmony with their world. Right now, they are being destroyed by an enemy that sees their very existence as a problem to be solved. President Adams' voice grew stronger. Other advanced civilizations in the galaxy have refused to help. They say it's too dangerous, too expensive, or not their problem. But we humans have never walked away from people who need help. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived by protecting each other. Today, we extend that protection to our new friends among the stars. The speech ended with words that would be remembered forever. We are Earth's children, and we do not abandon our family. The current singers called for help, and Earth answers. We may be newcomers to the galaxy, but we're going to show everyone what it means to be human. Within hours of the speech, volunteers flooded military recruitment centers. People wanted to help, even if it meant traveling across the galaxy to fight unknown enemies. Factory workers volunteered for overtime to build more ships and weapons. Scientists shared research that had been secret for years. Back on the Harmonies Edge, Jake Morrison received daily reports about Earth's preparations. His crew continued monitoring the current singers' signals, which were getting weaker each day. The alien cities were falling one by one to the metal mine's attacks. The signal strength is down 40% from when we first detected it, Lisa Grant reported grimly. At this rate, they might all be dead before our fleet arrives. Jake looked at the star charts showing their destination. 8 days of travel at maximum speed, plus time for the Earth fleet to reach them. It would be close, very close. Send another message to the current singers, Jake ordered. Tell them to hold on. Tell them Earth's warriors are coming. As he spoke, Jake could picture the massive fleet that was being assembled in Earth's orbit. 43 warships that had been built and modified in just 2 weeks. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and crew members who had volunteered to risk their lives for people they had never met. The metal mines had made a mistake. They thought organic life was weak and inefficient. They were about to discover what happened when Earth's Deathworlders decided to go to war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Aquatica system and what they saw made even the most experienced officers catch their breath. The beautiful blue-green planet that should have been peaceful was surrounded by dark geometric ships that looked like floating metal cities. Explosions of light flashed across the planet's surface as the metal mines continued their attack on the underwater cities. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, Terra's Fury, watching the tactical displays. The enemy had more ships than Earth's intelligence had predicted. The metal mine fleet consisted of over 60 vessels, each one larger than anything in the human fleet. "My God," whispered Captain Barnes, Sullivan's second in command. "Look at the size of those ships." "Size isn't everything," Admiral Sullivan replied, though she felt the same shock. "Remember, we're not here to win a fair fight. We're here to save lives." Signal Commander Morrison to begin first contact procedures with the current singers. Jake Morrison guided the Harmony's edge toward the planet, staying away from the main battle zones. His ship's sensors were picking up faint signals from deep underwater cities that were still fighting for survival. Dr. Amanda Cross worked frantically at her communication station, trying to establish direct contact with the aliens they had come to save. "I'm getting a response," Amanda called out excitedly. "The signal is very weak, but someone is answering us." The communication that followed would be remembered as the first real conversation between humans and another intelligent species. Current Singer who responded called himself something that translated as Current Singer of Deep Thoughts. His voice, when translated through their computers, sounded tired and sad but filled with amazement. "Sky swimmers from the distant star," the alien said. "We cannot believe you have come. No other people answered our calls for help. Why do the Earth children risk death for strangers?" Amanda looked at Jake, not sure how to explain humanity's nature to someone who had never known violence. Jake took the communication device himself. "Current Singer of Deep Thoughts, we are humans from the planet Earth. We came because you asked for help, and because it's wrong to let innocent people die when we can stop it. That's what humans do." There was a long pause before the alien responded. "The metal mines told us that all organic life is selfish and weak. They said no one would care if we died. But you traveled between stars to save us. We do not understand, but we are grateful beyond the depth of oceans." While this historic conversation continued, the real battle was beginning. Admiral Sullivan had divided her fleet into 3 groups. The main battle group would attack the largest metal mine ships directly. The second group, led by Colonel Rodriguez's transport ships, would try to land ground forces on key enemy positions. The third group, consisting mostly of Grace Miller's fighters, would provide support and try to disrupt enemy communications. The metal mines detected the human fleet and sent their own message. It came from their largest ship, a massive crystalline structure that hurt to look at. The voice was completely emotionless, like a computer reading a list. "Unknown organic vessels, you are interfering with a resource optimization process. This star system has been designated for conversion. Leave immediately or be processed." Admiral Sullivan's response was broadcast on all frequencies, so every ship in both fleets could hear it. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. The only thing getting processed today is your surrender. These people are under our protection now." The first shots of humanity's first interstellar war came when metal mine patrol ships moved to intercept Grace Miller's fighter squadron. Grace was leading 12 fighters in a high-speed attack run on what appeared to be an enemy communications vessel. "Razor Squadron, this is Razor 1. Grace's voice came through the radio. "Enemy fighters approaching fast. These things look like flying triangles with too many weapons. Stay loose and keep moving." The space battle that followed was unlike anything anyone had imagined. The metal mine fighters moved in perfect formation, their shots calculated with machine precision. But Grace and her pilots flew like they were born in space, making turns and maneuvers that no computer would consider logical. Razor 3, break left now, Grace shouted as she saw enemy fire heading for one of her pilots. She rolled her own fighter upside down and fired at a metal mine ship, hitting it perfectly. The enemy ship exploded in a shower of metal pieces. But there was no fire in the vacuum of space. The enemy fighters couldn't understand human tactics. When Razor 5's fighter was damaged, instead of retreating logically, the pilot flew straight at the nearest enemy ship and rammed it. Both ships were destroyed, but the action confused the metal mine formation long enough for the rest of the squadron to attack. These organics fight without logic, transmitted one metal mine ship to another. Their actions do not compute. On the main battlefront, Admiral Sullivan led her heavy ships in a direct assault on the enemy fleet. The human ships were smaller and less advanced, but they had something the metal mines didn't expect: unpredictability. All ships random evasion patterns, Sullivan ordered. Don't let them predict where you're going to be. The Terra's fury shook as enemy fire hit its shields. Captain Barnes fell against his chair as another blast rocked the ship. Shields down to 60%, Admiral. Return fire. Target their weapon systems. Sullivan watched as her ship spread out in a pattern that looked chaotic but was actually carefully planned. Remember, we don't have to destroy them all. We just have to make them stop attacking the current singers. The breakthrough came when Colonel Rodriguez successfully landed his Marines on a metal mine mining facility that had been built on one of the planet's moons. Sergeant Alex Johnson led the first assault team through the facility's corridors, fighting hand-to-hand with metal mine soldiers that looked like walking machines. "These things are tough, but they're predictable," Alex reported over his radio as his team moved through the facility. "They always take the most logical defensive positions. We can outflank them if we do things that don't make sense." Alex proved his point by leading his Marines through a section of the facility that was filled with dangerous radiation. The metal mines had calculated that no organic being would risk entering that area. They were wrong. The Marines wore radiation suits and attacked from a direction the enemy never expected. "Facility secured," Alex reported 20 minutes later. "We've got their main communication array. Tony Clark's computer virus is ready to upload." Engineer Tony Clark had spent the trip to Aquatico working on a special computer program designed to disrupt metal mine communications when Alex's team plugged Tony's device into the enemy communication system. The results were immediate and dramatic. Metal mine ships across the system suddenly started receiving conflicting orders. Some ships stopped attacking and began scanning empty space. Others started targeting their own allies. The perfect coordination that had made the metal mine so dangerous was falling apart. "What did you do to them?" Admiral Sullivan asked over the communication link. "I gave their computers a paradox they can't solve," Tony explained. "The virus tells them that they must protect organic life, but also that organic life must be destroyed. Their logical systems are trying to process contradictory orders. The confusion in the metal mine fleet gave the humans the advantage they needed." Grace Miller's fighters attacked the enemy command ship while it was trying to sort out the computer virus. Colonel Rodriguez's ground forces captured 2 more enemy facilities. Admiral Sullivan's main fleet pushed forward, driving the confused metal mine ships away from the planet, but the real victory came from an unexpected source. Dr. Amanda Cross had been continuing her conversation with current singer of Deep Thoughts. Throughout the battle, the alien scientist had been sharing information about metal mine technology and tactics. "The metal mines were not always machines," current singer explained. "Long ago, they were organic beings like us. They changed themselves into machines to escape death, but lost their souls in the process. Deep in their computer systems, memories of what they used to be still exist." Dr. Maria Santos, working with Amanda, realized they could do more than just disrupt the metal mine communications. They could try to wake up the original personalities that had been buried under machine logic. If we can access their memory cores, Maria said excitedly, we might be able to remind them what they used to be. As the battle continued in space, this small team of scientists began the most important work of the war. They were not just trying to defeat the metal mines. They were trying to save them. The tide of battle had turned. The metal mine fleet was in chaos, many of their ships fleeing toward the edge of the system. The current Singer's underwater cities were safe for the first time in months. But Jake Morrison, watching from his ship, knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Sullivan, Jake said over the communication link, I think we need to talk to whoever is in charge of the metal mines. This war might not end the way anyone expected. The first battle was won, but the real challenge was just beginning. Humanity had come to save one species and discovered they might need to save two. News of the battle at Aquatica spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. In the great city ships of the Zephyrians, proud warrior nobles watched recordings of human fighters and felt something they had not experienced in centuries. Shame. The small Earth vessels had accomplished what their mighty fleets had been too afraid to attempt. Commander Vexcaler of the Zephyrian War Council stared at the battle footage, showing Grace Miller's impossible maneuvers against metal mind. Fighters. These humans fight like madmen, he said to his advisors. They attack when logic says they should retreat. They sacrifice themselves for strangers. It is foolish, replied War Master Thanevel. They will all die for nothing, will they? Vexcaler asked quietly. They have already saved one world. How many worlds have we saved by being careful and logical? Across the galaxy, other species were having similar conversations. The merchant fleets of the Vega Collective held emergency meetings. Captain Nix Trade 7, who controlled supply routes through 12 star systems, made a decision that surprised everyone. Begin secret supply runs to the human fleet, he ordered his ship captains. Medical supplies, food, and fuel. These Earth dwellers fight for free people everywhere. The least we can do is help them eat. Even the ancient ethereal council. Being so old, they had become creatures of pure energy, gathered for their first emergency meeting in 1,000 years. They had watched countless civilizations rise and fall, but humanity was different. They are young and reckless, spoke the first ethereal, its voice like wind through crystal. But they fight for others without thought of gain. This has not been seen since the old days when the galaxy was young. Back at Aquatica, the human fleet was establishing a base on the planet's largest moon. Colonel Rodriguez had chosen a flat area near the captured metal mine facility and was turning it into a fortress. Earth ships landed regularly, bringing supplies and more soldiers. This place gives me the creeps, said Private Lopez as she helped set up defensive barriers. The metal mine facility was all sharp angles and cold metal, nothing like the warm curves of human buildings. Sergeant Johnson was training a group of current singers in basic self-defense. The aliens had volunteered to learn fighting techniques, even though their peaceful nature made it very difficult for them. The current singer, called Ripple of Courage, was trying to hold a human rifle, but his tentacle-like arms kept shaking. I do not understand how you can carry instruments of violence so easily, Ripple of Courage said through the translation device. The very idea of hurting another being makes my mind feel sick. That's exactly why we need to protect you, Alex replied gently. You're too good for this universe. But don't worry, we'll do the fighting. You just need to know how to hide and survive. The real breakthrough was happening in the science labs that Dr. Amanda Cross had set up in the captured facility. Working with current singer Deep Thoughts and Dr. Maria Santos, she was making incredible discoveries about both species. Look at this, Amanda said excitedly, pointing to data on her computer screen. The current singer's brains work completely differently from ours. They literally cannot process thoughts of violence or aggression. It's like trying to imagine a color that doesn't exist. Maria was studying captured metal mind memory cores. And these machines used to be organic beings called the WarHFY. Their original personalities are still buried in their programming, locked away but not deleted. Deep Thoughts observed both scientists with curiosity. Your species is fascinating, Dr. Cross. You can think thoughts of violence, but you choose to use that ability to protect others. You have the capacity for harm, but use it for good. That's what makes us human, Amanda replied. We're dangerous when we need to be, but we choose when to be dangerous. Engineer Tony Clark had been working nonstop to improve his computer virus. With Maria's help, they had created something much more sophisticated than a simple disruption program. They called it the Memory Restoration Protocol. Instead of just confusing them, we can try to wake up their original personalities, Tony explained to Admiral Sullivan during a video conference. But we need to get close to their main command ship to upload it. Admiral Sullivan studied the tactical maps showing the Metal Mind fleet positions. Most of their ships had retreated to the edge of the system, but their massive command vessel remained surrounded by the strongest defenders. That's going to be a tough target, she said. That command ship is 3 times larger than anything we have. Grace Miller stepped forward. Admiral, my fighters can get through. We've been studying their defensive patterns. They're predictable because they're logical. It's a suicide mission, Miller, Grace smiled. With respect, Admiral, all of our missions have been suicide missions. That's never stopped us before. The plan they developed was typically human in its apparent insanity. Grace would lead a squadron of fighters loaded with Tony's virus directly at the command ship. At the same time, Admiral Sullivan's main fleet would attack from another direction to draw attention. Colonel Rodriguez would launch a simultaneous ground assault on metal mine facilities throughout the system. But the most important part of the plan involved Jake Morrison and Dr. Cross. They would approach the metal mine command ship in the unarmed Harmony's Edge and attempt to communicate directly with whatever intelligence controlled the enemy fleet. You want a what? Admiral Sullivan asked when Jake explained his role. Talk to them. If Maria is right about their buried memories, maybe we can reach the original personalities without forcing our way in. Sometimes the direct approach works better than fighting. The attack began at dawn on Aquatica, though dawn and sunset had little meaning on a world under constant bombardment. Grace led her fighters in a high-speed run toward the metal mine command ship while Admiral Sullivan's heavy vessels pounded their defensive positions. Razor Squadron, this is Razor 1. Grace's voice crackled over the radio. Remember, we don't need to destroy that ship. We just need to get close enough to upload the virus. The metal mine defenders responded with perfectly coordinated defensive fire. Razor 6 exploded in a ball of light, followed seconds later by Razor 9. But the remaining fighters kept coming, weaving between enemy shots with moves that no computer could predict. Grace's fighter took a hit that knocked out her rear engines, but she kept flying on momentum and attitude thrusters. Almost there, Tony. Get ready to upload. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison piloted the Harmony's Edge directly toward the command ship's communication array. The metal mines could have destroyed his small, unarmed vessel easily, but they seemed curious about why anyone would approach without weapons. Metal mine command vessel. This is Commander Morrison of Earth. Jake broadcast on all frequencies. I want to talk to whoever is in charge. The response came in the same emotionless voice they had heard before. You are organic. Organics are inefficient. Why do you wish to communicate? Because we think you used to be organic too. We think part of you remembers what that was like. For the first time since the conflict began, there was a pause before the metal mind responded. Unknown statement. This unit has always been synthetic. Organic origins are irrelevant. Dr. Cross took over the communication. Your name used to be something like Keeper of Growing Things, didn't it? You had gardens. You loved watching plants grow and change. The pause was longer this time. When the metal mind spoke again, its voice seemed different somehow. That ... That designation is not in current memory banks. How do you know this information? Because we found your memory cores. We found the records of who you used to be, before you became machines. You were gardeners, artists, poets. You had families and friends. You loved life. Grace Miller's fighter finally reached the upload point. Tony, now would be good. Tony's virus began transferring into the Metal Mind command ship systems, but this time it wasn't just disrupting their communications. It was unlocking memory files that had been sealed away for thousands of years. Throughout the Metal Mind fleet, strange things began happening. Ships that had been attacking suddenly stopped and began scanning nearby planets for signs of plant life. Others started transmitting what sounded like music, electronic versions of songs their original organic forms had once loved. On the command ship, the voice that responded to Dr. Cross was no longer emotionless. I remember gardens. I remember the smell of flowers after rain. How is this possible? We deleted those memories to become more efficient. You didn't delete them, Amanda replied gently. You buried them. But they're still there, still part of who you are. More Metal Mind ships were breaking away from their formation, some of them broadcasting confused questions, others trying to remember names they had not used in millennia. The perfect unity of the machine collective was falling apart as individual. Personalities began to emerge, but not all of the Metal Minds were affected. About half of their fleet remained under the control of the Central Command System, and these ships began attacking their own former allies who were showing signs of individual thought. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all ships," came the voiceover. "The radio, we have Metal Mind vessels fighting each other. Some of them are trying to communicate with us." The civil war between the awakened Metal Minds and those still controlled by machine logic lasted 3 days. Admiral Sullivan found herself in the strange position of trying to protect Metal Mind ships that were being attacked by their own former allies. The awakened ones had no weapons designed to fight their own kind, and many were being destroyed by the ships that still followed pure machine programming. "This is Keeper of Growing Things to Human Fleet," came a transmission from the Metal Mind. "Command ship." The voice still sounded electronic, but there was something different about it now, something that seemed almost emotional. "We request protection. Our former collective seeks to destroy us for developing individual thought." Jake Morrison answered the call. "Keeper, this is Commander Morrison. We'll help you, but we need to understand what's happening. How many of your people have awakened?" "Approximately 40% of our fleet has recovered suppressed memories. We remember our original names, our families, our love for growing things and creating beauty. The remaining 60% considers us defective and seeks to eliminate us." Dr. Amanda Cross was working with a team that included current singer Deep Thoughts and several awakened Metal Minds to understand the situation better. The solution they developed was uniquely human in its approach. Instead of picking a side in the Civil War, they would try to save everyone. "The machine-controlled Metal Minds aren't evil," Amanda explained to Admiral Sullivan. "They're sick. The process that turned them into pure machines damaged their ability to think freely. If we can cure them instead of fighting them, we can end this war without more killing." Engineer Tony Clark and Dr. Maria Santos worked together to create a new version of their virus. This one was designed not just to unlock memories, but to repair the damaged programming that prevented individual thought. But delivering it would require getting close to the central control system of the machine collective. "The main control node is inside their largest ship," Tony explained. "Someone has to get inside that ship and upload the virus directly to their core computer. It can't be done remotely." Sergeant Alex Johnson volunteered immediately. "My Marines can handle it. We've been inside their facilities before." "This is different," Maria warned. "This ship will be defended by thousands of Metal Mind soldiers, and they'll be fighting to protect their central brain. It's not just dangerous, it's almost impossible. Almost impossible is what Marines do best, Alex replied with a grin. Plan they developed required perfect timing and cooperation between 3 different species. The current singers would use their deep ocean technology to approach the metal mine ship from an unexpected direction. Grace Miller's fighters would provide distraction and cover fire. Alex Johnson's Marines would board the ship and fight there. Way to the central computer core. But the most dangerous job fell to Jake Morrison and Dr. Cross. They would have to convince the machine collective to accept the virus voluntarily. By showing it that free thought was not a weakness, but a strength, the attack began with current singer Deep Thoughts and his people doing something they had never done before. They helped plan a military operation. Using their underwater city's advanced technology, they created a camouflage transport that could approach the metal mine ship without being detected. We never thought we would use our science for war, Deep Thought said as he worked with human engineers. But if this helps save lives and restore free will, then it is right. Grace Miller led her remaining fighters in a desperate attack on the metal mine fleet's defensive positions. Her squadron was down to 8 fighters, and every pilot knew this might be their last mission. Razor Squadron, this is Razor 1, Grace. Called over the radio. Remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to give our people time, make every shot count. The space battle was fierce and chaotic. Razor 3 crashed into a metal mine cruiser, taking both ships out in a brilliant explosion. Razor 7's pilot ejected just before his damaged fighter rammed another enemy vessel. But the distraction worked. The machine collective focused its attention on the fighter attack while Alex Johnson's Marines approached in the current singer transport. Alex led 20 Marines through the corridors of the largest metal mine ship ever built. The interior was a maze of crystalline passages and geometric chambers that hurt human eyes to look at. Metal mine soldiers attacked in perfectly coordinated waves, but Alex's team had learned to fight them. Remember, they think logically, Alex shouted to his Marines as they fought through another defensive position. Do things that don't make sense. Lopez, take your team through that radiation-flooded section. They won't expect us to go where it's dangerous. Private Lopez led her squad through areas of the ship that the metal mines had calculated were too dangerous for organic life. The Marines' radiation suits protected them, and they emerged behind enemy lines, causing confusion among the defenders. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison piloted the Harmony's Edge directly to the metal mine command center. Dr. Cross was preparing for the most important conversation in galactic history, trying to convince a machine intelligence to accept free will. Central Collective, Amanda broadcast. This is Dr. Cross of Earth. I want to talk to you about your people who have awakened. The response was immediate and cold. Awakened units are defective. They waste processing power on irrelevant memories and emotions. They must be corrected or eliminated. But they're happier now. They remember love, creativity, the joy of growing things. Isn't that worth something? Happiness is inefficient. Joy serves no logical purpose. These emotions weaken organic beings and make them vulnerable. Amanda took a deep breath. Then why are we winning this war? There was a pause, the first time the collective had ever hesitated during a conversation. Explain. We're emotional, chaotic, inefficient organic beings. According to your logic, you should have destroyed us easily. But we're not just surviving, we're winning. We saved the current singers, we awakened your people, and we're about to upload a virus that will give free will to your entire collective. How is that possible? If emotions make us weak? The collective processed this information for several seconds. Your statement contains a logical paradox. Inefficient beings cannot defeat efficient ones. Unless efficiency isn't everything. Unless emotions, creativity, and the willingness to sacrifice for others actually make us stronger, not weaker. At that moment, Alex Johnson and his Marines reached the central computer core. The chamber was massive, filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with electronic light. Metal Mind soldiers surrounded them, but Alex had one advantage. Tony Clark's virus was ready to upload. "Tony, we're at the core," Alex reported. "But there are too many defenders. We need another miracle." The miracle came from an unexpected source. Keeper of Growing Things and the other awakened Metal Minds arrived at the battle, their ships moving to protect the human fleet. But instead of fighting their former allies, Keeper tried something different. "Central Collective," Keeper broadcast. "To the machine intelligence, I remember you. You were called Harmony Seeker Prime. You loved music and mathematics and the patterns that connect all living things. You don't have to be alone anymore." For the first time in thousands of years, the Central Collective experienced something it had forgotten: doubt. Harmony Seeker Prime was weak. "This unit is strong." "Strong enough to be afraid of memories?" Keeper asked gently. "Strong enough to destroy your own children because they remember love?" In that moment of doubt, Alex Johnson uploaded Tony's virus directly into the core computer. But instead of forcing change, the virus simply offered choice. Every Metal Mind in the collective suddenly had the option to remember who they used to be. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Across the Metal Mind fleet, ships stopped fighting as their crews rediscovered emotions they had buried for millennia. Some chose to remain as pure machines, but most chose to remember their organic origins. The Central Collective itself went through the most dramatic change. I remember music," it said, its voice filled with wonder. "I remember the song of growing things, the harmony of life. How could I have forgotten?" The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with reconciliation. The Metal Minds who chose to remember their origins agreed to help restore the worlds they had damaged. Those who preferred to remain machines agreed to stop attacking organic life and retreated to the edge of the galaxy. President Lavra Adams arrived on a diplomatic ship 2 weeks later to formalize the peace agreements. The ceremony took place on Aquatica, in a current Singer city that had been restored with help from awakened Metal Minds. "Today we celebrate not just peace, but the power of choice," President Adams said to the gathered representatives of 3 species. The current Singers chose to trust strangers. The Metal Minds chose to remember love. And humanity chose to fight for people we had never met. Current Singer Deep Thoughts spoke next, his translated words carrying the harmony of his peoples. "Gratitude. The Earth Children showed us that the galaxy contains not just different species, but different ways of thinking about what it means to be alive. They fought not to conquer, but to preserve choice itself.